All right, Coach Lee here, and I want to be your coach for the 2023 season. Now, this is a little bit longer video. The relationship between a coach and an athlete. If it's a good relationship, this is really where the magic happens. So I'm going a little bit longer today because I really want you to understand my process and thinking as a coach. That base period, starting in October, November, depending on my clients, that 4 to 5 months of base training is it is the most important part of the season. What you do in those 4 to 5 months ensures your ability to deliver on your goals for 2023 and 2024, your ability to nail key events in 2023 and 2024. So let me give you a little, a breakdown of how I coach, how I communicate with my athletes so that you can understand if coaching is right for you, and then if I, as a coach, am right for you. All right. So let's look at this right here. Right off the bat, commitment. Coaching is an intense process. Being an endurance athlete is an intense process. And right off the bat, we need commitment. Commitment. This is a great quote from Joe Friel, legendary coach. Striving for peak performance is a 24-hour-a-day, 352-day-a-year task. Racing at the highest possible levels demands a full-time commitment that is not just training related. The higher the goals, the more life must revolve around eating, sleeping, and working out. Eating nutritious food fuels the body for training and helps speed recovery by replenishing depleted energy and nutrient stores. And by providing the building blocks for a stronger body, sleeping and working out have synergistic effect on fitness. So basically, we need a commitment. Food, sleep, and a great plan, right? And big, hairy goals, big, hairy, audacious goals. No matter if you're a cyclocross rider with me, a mountain bike rider, a tri guy, a group ride king, right? We all want to set goals, and each of those goals demands a level of commitment. All right, here's another great quote. Success should ultimately be measured by our ceaseless effort to reach our own personal best. All right. So this is where you really have to fall in love with the process. You have to be on this epic, ceaseless quest to just master the process, right? So it said, think to switch metaphor here. Like if you want to be a millionaire, you can't just be in love with the millionaire. You have to be in love with those day-to-day activities, those day-to-day processes that make you a millionaire, and you'll be a millionaire. If you're just in love with being a millionaire, if you're just in love with the idea of being on the top podium, you're not going to get there. You have to be in love with the process, right? That is one of the crucial things that drives the whole thing. Okay. Now, what do we do? What does all this look like? So we break up the season. I love to start every base before we really start getting into hardcore base. I really like to do prep. Prep is 4 weeks, and I'll break this down in a couple of slides. Then we like to do base about 16 weeks. Now, this all depends on who you are as an athlete. I have some athletes who are only going to need to be at 8 weeks in base, some athletes 16 weeks, some athletes a little bit longer. It depends on who you are as an athlete. It depends on what your events show, and it depends on what the data shows. And then after this big base week, our base period, we go on to build. So in base, we're really working on the foundation, and we're really working on the house. Then in build, we want to raise that roof, right? So VO2 max effort is our aerobic ceiling, our aerobic roof, if you will. And so, in build, this is where you see a lot of VO2 efforts. We're at endurance efforts, tempo, sweet spot, stuff like that, okay? Now, the three systems that we're really working in this whole period. So the body is made up of numerous systems. All are affected by endurance work, by a great periodized plan throughout the season. But what are the primarily ones that we're working with? we're primarily working with the muscular system, the metabolic system, and this is where we teach your body to use energy, and most people are doing this wrong. So it's one of the most important things, and one of the most important aspects of my coaching is to get your body ready for your events by teaching it to use the energy sources that it will use on event day. Most people really get this wrong, and so we want to get you want to get that right. And then lastly, your cardiovascular and respiratory systems. Those are basically the big systems that we'll be developing through the base period. All right, now what is the process? And so now this is really important because, we have to look at the process of coaching as a team building experience, right? We're on your team. You're building a team. I'm part of that team. So communication is crucial. So really understanding how the coaching process works, my coaching process, this is really crucial to getting it done. And this slide it's a great slide from a huge influencer on me, Tim Cusick, lead product developer over at Training Peaks and WKO5. He's been in this industry forever, and he has forgotten more about coaching than I'll ever learn. All right, so we look at you, okay? So diagnose, we look at you, we look at your data, we look at your season, we look at your events, and we just look and study. And then we develop a plan based on, your events where we adjust the volume and the intensity. We manipulate the volume intensity via a training modality. Now, what's a training modality? Modality is a fancy exercise physiology way to talk about different ways that you can train. And so right now in our industry, the endurance industry of cycling, we have, basically long, slow distance rides. These are for training modalities. We have the high intensity efforts. We have the polarized, the 80-20 type stuff that's out there right now. And then we have the threshold stuff, which it's what I call, and it's what I coach by, where we look at your goals, we look at the data, and then we basically utilize these three methodologies throughout the season to maximize your functional threshold, what you can do for about in some semi-quasi state of effort between 35 to 70 minutes, right? And we use these modalities to give you what you need for your event day. Do you need a super high FTP? If you're right now a cyclocross racer, you're a crit racer, you're a road racer, or do you need a lower FTP but a massive endurance, the ability to ride zone 2 for 24 hours? Okay, it's all important. Okay, so then we go and then we manage, right? So we're in it. We got you a plan. We got you a training modality. And then as we're moving on, then we just simply maintain, your fitness and your freshness. We talk, we communicate. So when I use the platform Training Peaks, and in Training Peaks, you can leave comments. I urge my athletes to leave comments on everything. And I will leave as many comments as I possibly can to really have a vigorous communication. All right. So what I like about this is that we co-manage, right? This is all about communication, and this is where the magic happens. And then we get you to your event day goals. And I can't stress this enough. I have studied the relationships of hundreds and hundreds of athletes, literally hundreds of athletes with dozens and dozens of coaches. And where does it break down? Where does it break down? Lack of communication. Where does the magic happen? Communication. So basically, communication is key. And you as an athlete have to make that decision. Do I feel comfortable talking to you as a coach? You have to make that decision, right? Because you're going to have to, be brutally honest. You might be more brutally honest than you are with your partner, with your coach. We have to get to the truth of the situation to get the very best out of you. Okay. This is big. So bear with me here. So what is something, what do we look like? What kinds of things do we do? Now, this prep, this 4 weeks, this is usually October. This is where we're doing light riding. We're relaxing. Think of, 2022 is this huge blackboard. We're clearing the blackboard. We're erasing the blackboard and we're creating our 2023, 2024 blackboard. We do a postseason review. We look at what you did, what you didn't do last season. We goal set. This is huge. Like, we need big, hairy, audacious goals. And I love to get goals in there for 2 to 3, this year, 2023, but I love 2024 goal setting or 2025 goal setting. That's where the magic happens. Functional strength. We're going to start, doing some functional strength, mobility work, getting on the floor, moving around, doing those exercises that help, correct the imbalances created by cycling. Core work, crucial. Nutrition goals. If we're going to lose weight, this is the time to lose weight in the season. So we have to look at our nutrition. We have to define, is this what we want to do? Define our strengths, define our limiters, design a strategy for 2023. Get doctor physical. Now, this is really important. I love doctor physicals, right? So this is a great time of the year. I really recommend my clients get 2 physicals a year. And this is where we do the blood work. We look at what your iron levels are in your blood and all that great stuff, and to see if there are any problems. But I love for athletes to get 2 physicals a year. If not, then definitely get one now in this prep. Dentist checkup. This is really important because you don't want to show up in spring and May, right? Your A event, you've worked so hard, then all of a sudden, oh man, I got to get a wisdom tooth out or something like that. So I really like to get that dentist checked up, okay? Then, tech upgrade strategy. It's really important, especially now with all of our supply chain disasters that are out there. We really need a tech upgrade strategy. If you need a new bike, if you need a new rear cassette, right? This could take months just to get a new rear cassette, right? You could have a chain shortage. So we really need to make sure we have all that dialed in for the season. All right, then we begin our base. We start with a volume emphasis, and we're really looking forward to build consistency. So this first base we want, that is the fundamental thing that can make you a good endurance athlete, whether you're one of my swimmers, one of my runners, one of my mountain bikers, anything. Consistency. That is crucial. Then what we're going to do is, we're going to be doing lots of longer, more endurance, zone 2, zone 3 rides. And it really is all about your FTP. So even though we're working down here in your lower zones, we really are establishing the foundation to build on that FTP, because we really have 3 ways to build FTP, right? We can push it up, we can pull it out, and then we can pull it up. And so my plans do all those 3 things periodized throughout the season. Again, we continue our functional strength, our core work, neuromuscular manipulation. This is big with me. Most of my workouts have some aspect of neuromuscular manipulation. And what is that? Basically, we have to be able to generate power at different cadences, right? So if you're going up a mountain, you might have to do your FTP at cadence 45. If you're going down the other side, you might have to be able to do your FTP at all of a sudden a cadence 120. And so if you're riding at the flat, so depending on your event. And so neuromuscular manipulation is basically all about making sure that, you can develop power at different cadences. So even if your ride, your race, your event is never going to end in a sprint, I have you do sprinting, right? It's all about teaching those muscles to contract, release, contract, release, contract, release. Pacing habits, right? So that's huge, right? Pacing is crucial to all of this, and we have to get you to trust in the almighty watts. And so we'll really work with doing pacing. And so like on a longer ride, If your zone 2 is somewhere around 200 watts, right? What do most people do on a 5-6 hour ride? They ride 230, 240 watts until they can't anymore, and then just slowly die and then finish at about, 150, 160 average watts. We want to teach you during this time period that you can ride faster if you start at 200 watts and you end at 200 watts. All right. So it's all about pacing. It's all about learning how to use that Garmin head unit in workouts, in training, so that you can maximize your Garmin head unit in on race day. Right. Breathing. That's crucial. We do breathing, lots of recovery work, lots of sleep discussion, lots of fatigue management. How do you get through all of this? But basically, we want to build the habits, right? We want to automatize the habits right here in this first section, that when you're tired, when you're haggard in your, when you're building up to your A event and your, life is very much an imbalance, we want all these skills, recovery skills, breathing skills, neuromuscular manipulation skills. We want all of this to be automatized, right? And then we go on to our end, right? So we do the last half of our base period. We have more of a build emphasis, where we start a different type of strength training, and strength training plans are crucial to my overall structure of how I coach, right? Functional. We do a couple months of functional and about 3 months of strength, working up to our A event. And then we really start to begin the lactate shuttling. Right. So what is lactate shuttling? That is create, hard starts where you do a couple minutes, 3 minutes over your FTP or something like that, where we create in our legs all of these waste products, byproducts, and then through the rest of the interval, we teach the body how to use that. We teach the mind how to deal with that pain. All right. Then we just go back and look, right? We're doing event-specific training. We want to reevaluate key events, right? So I had, a gentleman we had a key event in the calendar, an A event. We worked with him for 4 or 5 months, but the problem is that his first A event was outdoors, and he trained in the winter of Michigan, and he could not get outdoors the whole entire time. So we reevaluated that 8-hour outdoor gravel effort that he was going to have to do. And so we pushed off his A events back into the season just because of what he had to face through the winter. All right. And then we do all that, and then we get to usually an 8 weeks to peak plan. So if you're with me, through the base, then we start to build, and we really start to peak for your event, your key events. And if you're with me, there are many types of ways to peak for an event. So if your event, A event, is 6-hour century ride and you're going to rock that out, then that's one way to peak for an event. If your A event is a crit, then those 2 months before your crit are going to look very different from what the century rider guy does. And so this is sort of how we look at the season, and how, I think about the season as it unfolds towards your events. All right, now here's a really quick lesson. This is great. So here is, I was looking at an athlete's data when he came to me. And so this represents about a 4-month period of his base. And so this is the time and zones. This is the accumulated power, wattages, everything that was recorded throughout that 4-month period. And where does he spend most of his time? He spends over 48 hours in zone 1. What are we going to do with me? And so this is just one lesson of many lessons that we're going to focus on in the foundation period. And so what do? Right? We're going to make your time and zones look much more like this. And so through so up here, he's either going way too hard in base period or way too easy. What we're going to do is we're going to bring all this back. We're going to bring this, and we're going to put it in the zone to endurance. And so when you look at data from Olympians, when you look at professional athletes' data, and when you take their whole year, let alone their base period, but when you look at their entire year, this is essentially what we're getting. What is the root physiology for this, right? So all my coaching has some root in physiology. So bear with me. This is important. Like, this is an important lesson. It's one of the crucial things that we're going to get out of base period is your time in zones, which is a crucial metric. So time in zones, what you do in time in zones has its roots in physiology. Okay, so what happened? So this is a great slide. This comes all the way back to 2003 by Andy Coggan. He wrote an article, Training and Racing Using a Power Meter, an introduction. Not the book. I would just grab the article and read that because it still holds up. It is amazing. Has tons of great charts in there. Just a great resource. And this is a chart that I redid. And we can see like what happens in zone 1. Right? Nothing. These are what people call junk miles, right? And for a reason. Very little happens in zone 1. Yes, you can go out. If you're super sore, you can loosen up. You can get some circulation. But when it comes to developing, when it comes to actually moving forward, then what's the most important thing is the beginnings of zone 2. And we can see right here, this is where it begins. We even doing zone 2, we're even building our VO2, right? We're increased muscle capillarization, increased muscle glycogen storage, increased lactate threshold. All of this can happen in zone 2. And so for our base, what are we going to do? We do mostly zone 2. We're going to see a lot of zone 3 as well with bursts into 4 and 5, right? So, but mostly for our endurance period, mostly for your endurance training throughout the year, whether you're a swimmer, whether you're one of my runners, whether you're one of my cyclists, zone 2 is the best way to get faster. And so to put it another way, to get faster, ride slower, but ride slower correctly. And this person, he went from this. So here, what does he do? He's riding slower, but he's riding slower correctly in zone 2. Now, this is a huge skill, and it goes to route selection. You have to select great routes, and it's something that we will dial in over the season. But by the time you come out of base period, you will be able to ride zone 2 correctly. It really is one of the most difficult and important skills to learn. It really super is fascinating. So here we go. Here's my contact information. If you're looking for a coach, Lee at pro13.com, www.pro13.com. You can reach out to me. Would love to talk. But again, let me just end saying that communication is where the magic happens. If you're not communicating with your coach, if you don't have that ability to communicate with your coach, you're just not, in my experience and all the data that I've ever researched, you're just not going to reach your ultimate potential. All right? Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening.